degrees. I tried to upload my announcement video to YouTube so that YouTubers could see whether or not I was streaming. And unfortunately, it turns out that YouTube has decided that all videos are private from now on, even the public ones. So, that's fun. Yeah, I wonder if it's still like that. Ah, it's finally public. Come on, Twitch. Acknowledge me. I'm trying to stream to you. Ah, I'm streaming. Hurrah! I'm streaming with 0 viewers. And Pink Hair is one of my 0 viewers. He's saying that there was wondering about that. I'm sorry, I might have missed the first half of whatever you said, Pink Hair. And 10 Chaos 1 is here too. You guys are on the ball. I haven't even posted to Twitter yet because it just started. I'll be a little bit wheezy today because it is cold and windy outside, and I had to rush through that. So, got a lot of cold air straight down my lungs. Come watch me stream some indie dev. It's very relaxing. Paste. How exciting. Pinker said he saw videos of mine pop up on YouTube and then be listed as private. Okay, so just so you know, Pinker, they showed up as private to me. The guy who made them. There's something screwy going on with YouTube. I presume it's related to either their upload system is a little screwy, or their restricted access thing is going on off the walls. One of those two. Either way, today we are going to make things go wrong on purpose rather than on accident. Our crew is going to be going out and having stressful moments where they have little panic attacks. And that's what we're going to try and program today. I'm trying to get my OBS to fit nice within my left monitor here. Pinker says that comments just won't show up anymore. I haven't noticed that, but I don't generally do anything on YouTube. YouTube is very much just a place where I stick my videos. If there is something wrong with what it's doing, I literally haven't changed anything or done anything. I do know that YouTube is struggling to pull off a Disney-like family-friendly face, and maybe it has decided that I shouldn't be involved. I don't know if any of my videos have 100 comments. Maybe that one I made about that voxel group, that bullshit voxel group. I bet that one has 100 comments. Right, we are not in the right place. We have to go over to the construction page. Pinker says that YouTube may be on its last legs. I'm not sure about that. Google is a big company. I think what YouTube is trying to do is sell out. I think they are trying desperately to catch the last crest of the online advertising wave. And I don't think that's going to work out for them in the long run. I am worried about what I'm going to do if YouTube ever goes down the drain, because I don't think I'm physically capable of storing all of the 1,000 videos I put on YouTube on a local system. So that's rough for me. Eva Luigi says that Twitch is not loading the stream anymore. I do not have that problem. So I'm hoping that that's Eva Luigi having a problem and not me. Either way, what we're doing today is the basic idea. We have this crew, and they get stressed out, and then they break stuff. So there are a lot of questions about how to make that fun in terms of how you can repair the stuff they broke and what you prioritize and all that jazz. For now, however, we're going to just go ahead and fix it up so that they break stuff. To do that, we need a couple of things. We need to have the stress cause something to happen when they reach max stress. And then we also need to have the ability to pick something to break. And then we also need to have the ability to have something that is broken. Because right now, these things don't have the capability to break. If I look at the engineering report here, These cannot be broken. They don't understand the concept of breaking. So we're going to have to introduce that concept to them. And I think that that's a good thing to start with. Evil Luigi says it is streaming, but he says he was always fast in my streams because the tab is constantly open. Aha. You only missed like 2 minutes of me complaining about the fact that it's cold and windy outside, Evil Luigi. I haven't done anything yet, but I am going to do something now. I'm going to break shit. Right. We have to get my brain back in gear here. We need some scripts down here in the scripts. Now that's ship mix-ins, ships, ship components. So we have two options for breaking things. We can either break the ship component, or we can break the ship mix-in. So the difference is that a ship mix-in may be just one part of a component. A good example of that might be if you have something that provides supplies and a place to sleep. Maybe you could run out of supplies but still have a place to sleep, or vice versa. Evil Luigi says that he's annoyed because Twitch isn't auto-streaming stuff anymore. If it helps, it hasn't auto-streamed stuff for me ever, so I have no idea whether or not they plan to fix that. So we're going to make it so that the ship mix-ins can break, but we're also going to have a ship component that can understand whether something is fully functional, whether it's fully functional or not. Here you can see that we have this setup where we can get this broken mix-in. That's not actually what we want to do. What we want to do is be able to... So what this is the broken mix-in is for back in the days when the mix-ins were really, really complicated, and each component was incredibly complicated, and I was going to pop up an error, and then we were just going to check back. We're going to go ahead and replace that with this new method. So we're going to have a public, that's not how you spell public, public bool. Come on, settle in. Fully functional. Get. So we do not currently have a list of all of our mix-ins, I don't believe. We do. There they are, mix-ins. So we're going to say we're fully functional if all of our mix-ins are fully functional. So for each ship component mix-in. So actually, for optimization purposes, we want to store this locally. So let's do that. Ship component mix-in mixes equals mix-ins. Then we say for each ship component mix-in in mixes if mix-in dot functional. So if not mix-in dot functional, return false. So if it's busted, we're broken. We're not fully functional. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're not functional at all, but it does mean that there's something wrong. And what we are going to do is we are actually going to do this a little bit differently. I lied. I set this up wrong here. We are, in fact, going to do this broken mix-in approach, like so. But this broken mix-in approach is going to be quite changed, because it's just going to return the first broken mix-in, like so. And fully functional is just going to return whether that's null. So return broken mix-in equals null. There we are. If nothing's broken, we're fully functional. Now notice there are a couple of edge cases here. If there are no mix-ins, then we have a... functional is already it, but we're no longer doing that. We're doing fully functional. If we have no mix-ins, we're always going to be fully functional. And there are some components that have no mix-ins at the moment, like armor plating, so we'll have to deal with that. Evil Luigi says that there's too many so yeah, you're right, there's too many mixes. But that should be the last time we have to stack them like that. 10 Chaos 1 says, I'm not sure what kind of that is. But I'm going to presume that it's because he just had a nice hot cup of hot cocoa. You know, I wish I had remembered to buy some hot cocoa. I went shopping yesterday and I was like, I should buy myself some hot cocoa, and I didn't. I'm very sad now. You reminded me, and now I'm sad. Okay, let's continue on. So we do have the capability for mix-ins to break. As you can see, we're already asking the other mixins whether or not they're functional. Right here, mixin.functional. That means that there is a functional here. But the thing about that is that it makes no sense. Return parent.functional. So that's a loop. That's like saying, yeah, the mixin is functional if the thing asking the mixin if it's functional is functional. That's nonsense. So we can't do that. What we're going to have to do instead is have an overridable function for that. And now everyone wants hot cocoa. Yeah, that's how it works. Public virtual bool check function. Return true. So here we'll just say return check function. And then we'll move check function down into the body somewhere. So there are a couple of things that we're going to want to be able to do. We're going to want to have a basic we busted this on purpose variable. So let's go ahead and set that up. The question is, how much memory do we want? Do we want to remember who broke it, or do we just want to remember that it's broken? Or who or when? You know what? I think that might be a good idea to have some kind of event system, some primitive event system, just to remember this stuff. Let's go ahead and set this up with a primitive event system. So public struct ship component mixin event, not ping, just there we are. Make this a system.serializable, although it doesn't ever have to be. Oh, I guess it does, yeah. That's not it. Superfcan says, why exactly do you have a local ship component mixin array instead of just iterating over the class's mixin array? That's because if you iterate over that, it's going to repeatedly fetch it. And as you can see, fetching it is not necessarily... Well, I guess it's the same. You're right, because I actually already cache it. So that's not necessary. I was optimizing something I'd already optimized. So good catch. So fetching this stuff each time you go through would be hideously expensive. So we've got a situation where we want to be able to break a ship mixin component. I think we'll go ahead and just have some basics here. Public bool ship call it what do I want to call it? Broken on purpose? Physically broken equals false. And we'll go ahead and say this is true if the device was physically damaged due to malpractice or ramming or getting hit with a laser or whatever. It's not necessarily a structural thing. It could be like you ran out. So here we're going to put in check performance whether or not it's physically broken. So return not physically broken. And that's probably going to serve for 99% of our options here. Another option is we could make this a getter that we override later. I don't remember the specifics of whether or not it's better to override or use a function like this. Whether I can override it with a new functional. I honestly can't remember. I think that we can nest them. I think I can just do that in here. I don't remember whether I have to declare that as virtual, though. I don't think I have to. I think I can just say new. Eva Luigi says, intentionally disabled. It's not intentional on the part of like the in-world. It's an override. We are saying that regardless of the normal functionality, the normal behavior of this device, it has been broken by a global event of some kind. So reactor offline from maintenance would be a good example. It's intentionally broken or physically broken in some way, whether it's intentional or not. I just drank a whole bunch of cold water. I hope you couldn't hear that. Not nearly as good as hot cocoa. Let's leave it as physically broken for now. We can always change it later. Anyway, we should go ahead and put in a tooltip as well. Check this to break the device for testing purposes. So that will break it. Here's the thing. Checking this won't actually tell the system to break it. So let's not make this public. I'm trying to think of the way that we do this, because the basic problem here is that we need to mark this as dirty. And there is no mark as dirty functionality here. When this breaks, the ship component has to be told that something has changed. So we're going to go ahead and tell the ship component that something has changed. The ship component doesn't have any concept of dirty either. But there's also no reason to mark it as dirty because there's no cleanup. We just have to tell it that something has changed and have it update. So that's what we'll do. We'll have a function for that. What region is this? Serializers? Is that the only region we've got? It's the only region we've got. All right. Public virtual void component. Sorry, component changed. Component component functionality changed. Ship component mixin. Mixin. Let's call this a mixin. Yeah. So this is good. Just mixins all the way down. Mixin functionality changed. And right now we'll just say debug.log mixin.name plus changed question mark. And that'll be fine for now. Later on we'll probably have to fix it. And we'll just here we'll say parent dot mixin functionality changed this. And that should go ahead and make it so that this will always properly update the ship component when the ship component mixin breaks. Later on, we'll probably use that for UI eventing. There's no UI eventing yet, though, so we'll leave it like that. Fmal's Beer stopped in. Oh, in fact, I didn't say hi to everybody either. I never welcomed Supivcan or Evil Luigi or Fmal's Beer. Hello, all three of you. Supivcan says maybe updated would be a better name than functionality changed. In this case, I don't think so, because Mixin's updating is actually a different line of functionality. When a Mixin updates, that's something like a new officer being assigned to the bed or something similar. The ship component only cares about things where it's going to have to throw up alerts or any kind of situation where it's going to need to tell the player something critical has happened to a specific part. So I'm not sure that I want to lump those two together. But it could be later on that I'll want to change my mind. It's certainly not something that's hard to do if I need to change it later. All right, so that lets us break a component. The thing is that right now, we don't have any way for us to break a specific component. We just haven't figured it out yet. So what we're going to have to do is... we need one more here. We need the ability to break all of our components in a ship component. So let's do exactly that. And we need to mark this physically broken as something that saves. Which means it has to be public after all. That's a shame. Should not be done unless... Should not be edited unless you know... generally use functional instead. Now the reason I did this is because that way it'll save whether or not it was physically broken if we save the game and then load it later. We don't want it to regenerate every time we reload the game. That seems like it would be a little bit easy. But we are going to want to have the opposite of what we just wrote. Virtual void set all mixin functionality bool functional. And then we can say for each mixin dot functional equals functional return. Why do I have to type return? I don't have to type return. You high? There we are. Physically broken equals not value. I knew I'd done something dumb. There we are. Perfect. All right, so that lets us set all of the mixins for a component as broken if we just want to break the component, which is where we're going to start. So let's go ahead and open up our crew members. I think that we're going to need to rethink our mission system. All of these missions here are from decades ago. Parent.fully functional, huh? Mixin breakable. The funny thing is that the mixin breakable is actually exactly the same as the others, except that it checks to see whether or not the parent broke. The breakable is supposed to break all mixins if it is broken. So we're going to go ahead and just leave this out for now. There we are. What we can do is we can try out our new public new, what's it called, bool functional. And we can get and set in exactly the same way, except that we can fire off our functions. On component breaking, so if physically broken on component breaking dot invoke, else on component working dot invoke, either way on component state changed dot invoke. That should do. Oh, Pinkle. Sorry. Pink Hair says, being sick sucks. Words are just blurring together. Well, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in now that you've mentioned it. Unless you're talking about my voice, and in which case I'm sorry. Yeah. Evil Luigi's complaining about some random stuff. Have a good night, Pink Hair, or you could leave me on in the background if you wanted me to lull you to sleep. I promise to stop in an hour or so. Oh, this has to actually have a functionality, so we'll go ahead and say functional. Or value. That'll work. So, now that we've got that working, that should be all we needed to have this function. But what we're going to need to do is create a situation where the characters can break shit. Now, for now, I think we can just put that straight into the custom avatar, the social brain itself. Later on, we'll want to have it build an actual event, and that'll be something which goes on in the background or in the foreground, and you have to solve it. So that's something we'll have to do in the long run. But for now, we'll take the easy way out. Public virtual void break. Stress break. Breaks when what do I want to call this? Called when we break, generally supposed to have a complication event passed to it, but we don't have those yet. Evil Luigi's asking questions I don't know the answer to. Twitch is not something I am very good at. What we were going to do is when we have the mixin change its functionality here, the ship component needs to call home and tell the ship to reload its resources. So to do that, we're going to say ship. We don't have the ability to just call the ship from here. We do not. That's funny. So we have the option of just firing off a loaded components changed. I don't think anybody's listening for that, though. In theory, our parts should be listening for that. Let's take a look and see whether they are. If we look inside of our ship template, we have a parts list. And it has an on components changed, which is a static event. That's interesting. But it doesn't... Oh, I see. And the idea being that we can call that and it will check itself. So we can call recalc on the ship component list. But the ship component list isn't really waiting for our call. We don't have any sort of function listening for the ship components. We do have this recalc, but this only happens on transform children changed. And that only happens when we actually remove or add a transform, a game object. So in order for us to have this fire, we're going to need to have something that that allows us to call a recalc without needing to work too hard at figuring out what we're doing. We do get all of the components, and we could go ahead and add ourselves as a watcher to every component, but that seems like overkill. It makes more sense for us to either call on components changed, or for us to work out. Okay, so on components changed is called here. So what we need to do is we need to sign up for a variable that understands when a component breaks, and that's going to be a new static event. This one, loaded components changed. We need another one of these, and this is going to be component dirty. I wish we could move it up the chain. Do we have a ship component event? We do. We'll just do this. And then what we're going to do is whenever we have to change our values, we are going to hit that so that we don't have to worry about that. So down here, when we are doing our, here it is, our functionality changed, this is where we'll call it. But the thing is that if we set our functionality using this, we'll have this get called a dozen times. So protected bool, we are setting mixin functionality and should ignore callbacks equals false. If we are setting mixin to then return, otherwise we'll want to do that, and we'll want to call that function component dirty. Down here, dot invoke. People are laughing about that variable. You know, when we have a variable that's super precise like that, I don't really mind making it ridiculous. It all gets boiled down in the editor. It's a protected variable. It's not going to, I mean, in the compiler, it's a protected variable, so it's not going to show up outside of this class. Otherwise, I would have to add a lot of caveats and shit. I don't like doing that. Anyway, we're obviously going to have to set that here, and then unset it down here. Perfect. Couldn't have done it better myself. Well, Supifcan, I think you're probably right, except for there are other kinds of callbacks that we might get that we don't want to ignore. I don't mind it being unreasonably long either, Because basically it's supposed to only control these two functions. I think that there's probably a better way to do this. I just can't think of it. Because I can't share a local variable between two functions, obviously. But I could change it. I could change it to something a little bit better, like mixins, setting mixin functionality. Currently setting mixin functionality. How about that? And then we can put in some comments like, if we are setting the mixin functionality ourselves, we should ignore callbacks from those mixins about how their functionality has changed, or we might trigger 100 events. All right. You guys convinced me to have the length of my cute little variable name. Let's add some more comments before I forget. The mixin core functionality has either been broken or corrected. Does not necessarily mean the mixin performance changed. Yeah. Break or repair all core mixin functionality does not override mixin specific errors such as running out of food. All right, we are mostly comments now. Not a big problem there, but we still don't have the actual callback. So stress break, here is where we are now. When we are hitting our stress maximum here, we're going to want to break. Now, how much is our stress maximum? We don't have a stress maximum at the moment. Here's the thing. We're going to have to worry about several different categories of stress maximum, because we not only have to worry about what it currently is, we have to worry about how many times you've already hit it. So for that, we're going to have three different variables. Public float base stress threshold equals I don't know, 100 is fine. And then we'll have public float public int number of breakdowns equals 0. This one is going to be, they're both going to be delta serializable. And then we're also going to have a public, this is not delta serializable, public int, public float stress threshold. Get. And here we're going to go ahead and say return base stress threshold plus number of breakdowns times, what do you say? How about base stress threshold divided by 4? So really what we want to do is say return number of breakdowns plus 1 times 4 plus sorry. Number of breakdowns plus 4 times base threshold divided by 4. And that's an annoying way of saying give us 100% at 0, 125% at 1, 150% at 2, and so on. So our stress cap will slowly go up, but every time we have a breakdown, our breakdown result will get more severe until our next landfall and, you know, de-stressing. So that should mean that it'll get slowly more difficult to stress out, but it'll also get slowly more bad when we do stress out. So down here, we are going to check for our stress levels. if stress is greater than or equal to stress threshold, stress out. What did I call it? Stress break. And then here we will say stress equals 0, stress break. So what did I? Number broken, number breaks. Let's rename this. Stress breakdowns. Stress breakdowns plus plus. And now we have to do like break random part. So to break the random parts, we need to be able to get a list of them. We have a list of our ship right here. It's our cached ship. That's kind of an awkward way to do it, though, because I don't think we can trust the fact that that cached ship is properly cached. If we take a look at our cached ship, yeah, that is not a guarantee at all. That's a static variable, so we can't use the cached ship. We'll have to grab it. Ship equals get component in parent ship. Later on, we'll probably want to change this up. But for now, we're going to want to break a random component. So we say ship component array components equals ship dot component list. It's a ship component list. It's not a ship component, so that's fine. Ship component list. There we are. So the component list is its own class, and we've discussed this before. It's this one here. And we're going to go ahead and add in the break to here, so that when we break something, we actually ask the ship component list to break it. This will be useful for later when we use a ship component list descendant in order to handle components on facilities and stuff like that. The stress threshold function has an extra space, probably because this is not having the engineering. Hold on, I've got to include the engineering. So did you hear that? That was probably my bins falling in the street. That's not Control F. I'm going to leave for a couple of seconds and make sure that my stuff isn't in the street getting hit by trucks. They fell over, but they're empty and they're not in the street, so who cares? They'll just fall over again if I tip them up. Whew. All right, so where were we? We were in our ship component list building a ship break functionality. So here what we're going to do is get lists of various sorts. So first, we're going to start with a list of... This is an old one. It doesn't even have the generics. Predates that change to the Unity basics. All right, so this public list ship component get functional components. I don't think it needs to be here though. It could be up here. Well, I think that it's better to have it like this because otherwise I will forget to optimize. So this will tell me that it needs, we need to be careful about how we do this, because if we call it every time through an through a for loop, it's going to take forever. List ship component list equals new, yoink, and then we're going to go through all of our components for each ship component in components. We are going to check if it's functional. If component.functional, add it to the list. Perfect. And then here we're going to say public virtual ship component get random functional component. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say list ship component. Just copy it. equals get functional components. If list.count equals 0, return null. Put in some debug for that. Debug.log. All components are broken or there are no components for ship.name. Otherwise, we just return a random element of the list. Return list random.range 0, list.count. There we are. So we can also get a list of all the broken components. We might as well go ahead and duplicate these for broken components. Why don't we go ahead and have this not be a get functional components, but have a get components in state, or get functional components is fine. Bool functional equals true. And then we'll just say if fully functional equals functional, then add them. So here we'll say gets the components that have the same functionality as the past variable, default true. Here, we're going to get a random functional component, bool functional equals true, and we'll do the same thing. Yep. Gets one component with the functionality, with the same, with functionality, functionality. So in this case, we're going to have all component, no functional equals plus functional plus components for ship name. There we are. So now we can get either functional or non-functional components just by changing a Boolean. Man, the wind outside is rough. It's also ice cold. Totally bitter cold out. All right, so now we can grab a random component and all that jazz. So what we're going to do is we are going to put in a new region. Region eventing. End region. We're going to have public void break random component. And then what we'll do is we will say list, I will just say ship component C equals get random functional component. And then we will say if C equals null, debug.log, everything's already broken. Tried to break something, but everything's already broken. Return. Otherwise, c.fully functional, c.set all mixin functionality. We can actually go ahead and go over there and make this a little bit more clear. Our ship component functionality can have a set attached to it. Here we are. Set mixin functionality value. So with that in mind, when we try and break it, we can say c.fullyfunctional equals false. And that will randomly break something. Debug.log breaking the c.name. Evoluigi says, isn't this the wrong way around? Wait, did I do something wrong? I wouldn't be surprised if I did, Evoluigi. Let me know if you figure out what I've done. Your mind was the wrong way around. That happens a lot to programmers. That's why we get paid. Because our mind's the wrong way around. So over here in Social Brain, we're going to break. And then when we break, we're going to want to break our ship component. So components.break random component. Boom, right? So we're going to go ahead and put in some debug logging here. Debug.log name our, what do we call it? Avatar.name. avatar.first first name plus broke. Gonna break some shit. Yeah, Jaden Smith has been making a new name for himself these days, hasn't he? He's the new Jack Handy, if any of you remember that. Deep Thoughts with Jack Handy. Alright, so that should work, but there are now lots of things that we need to test. First things first, I don't believe that our resources are currently checking whether or not the object is functional. Over here in the ship component list, we have this resource system where we are checking out our resources. So here we say mix in resource, get components and children, mix in resource. But here we don't actually check to see whether or not the resource is broken. So let's go ahead and do that. If mResource.functional, if mResource.notfunctional, then we want to continue. Broken. Put in some debug lines for now. Not counting the mResource.resource. It's broken. Sorry, 10Chaos1, I'm not sure what I can do about that. So what we're going to do now is we are going to check and make sure that all of our elements are not functioning properly. Boy, that's fun to say. We're going to make sure that we broke this shit right. Alright, so when we click here on our engineering, we can see that we've got a couple of elements. We've got a composite supply of everything. The thing we've got one of is the fuel, so it's probably worth breaking the fuel tank. Unfortunately, now that I'm thinking about it, I forgot to give us a method of doing that. So what we're going to have to do is add to our ship component mixin, our ship component, the ability to break it via a command line, or via, via an inspector option. So what we're going to do is public void debug break everything. Set all mixin functionality false. And then we just say, what is it called? Menu item, context menu. That's what it is. There. Famalsbeer says, the ship looks funky. Presumably you mean it looks funky when I've got the engineering view on. The engineering view is due for a refit. It is very old and needs to be fixed. But if you mean the design of the ship is mediocre, I can certainly see that too. Grind, grind, grind. So this is what the ship looks like normally. It has a little bit of funkiness because these are off-kilter. I was playing around with that for fun. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to break this tank, because it's the only fuel tank the ship has. So if we go into scene view, we can select that ship, grab our ship. Where's our ship? Oh, it's here, of course. Hello. This is the tank in question, and we can just break it right here. Break it! So now, when we look at our resources, we have an okay fuel. Okay, so that did not help. It didn't work. What we can try and do is just change something. Okay, so now that it did work, it just didn't update properly. So it looks like we got a disconnect between the code that we need to update stuff and the UI. So the UI did not refresh Presumably because something didn't fire correctly. Let's take a look at our... Well, I mean, this is going to be redone anyway, so I'm not too concerned about it. But we need to make this work. So what happens is this only recalcs when the update hits, so that it prevents itself from recalcing a million times. We actually recalculate all the resources and fire off this onComponentsChange.invoke. But that might not be what the components list in the UI actually goes off of. Let's take a look. TenChaos1 says sod law in action. There should be an S in there somewhere. Oh, okay. I don't understand. Sorry. There we are. So what we're going to want to do here is figure out why the update isn't working. And to that end, we're going to pull the update up, pause the game, and grab it. Hello there. You are our update. It's a ship overview update with the ship engineering UI as script. When we look into it, what causes it to refresh? It actually gets like this manual refresh? Huh. No, the resource display is a separate thing. There it is. No, that's not it either. Is it all the way down here? Where is it? Huh. Where's the resource display? Oh, I just missed it. Ah. Here we are. Ship component lists.onComponentsChange.addListener reinitialize. So this really should work because the ship component list reinitializes at the end of onComponentsChange rather happens at the end of the ship component list changing anything. If we take a look, when we do this, here it is, onComponentsChange.invoke. The only way that doesn't happen is if we break before we get there, and there's no breaks. There's some continues, but no returns. Reinitialize just marks itself as dirty. And then what happens is during the update, it will re-update with the dirty initialize equals true. The problem is that I believe this is only going to work while it's up. Is that what's going on? Let's take a look. Let's try it out. TenChaos1 meant Sod's Law. Okay, I'll take your word for it. So what we're going to do is we are going to select and break our panel, or our tank, out here. Break it. Okay, so we've broken our tank, and we're going to look over here into the game, and you can see that it still says fuel okay. So we're going to put in a manual check here. Debug.log ship resource array UI marked dirty. And then over here in the ship component list, we will go ahead and say debug.log shouting that the components have changed. Component list shouting that the components have changed. There we are. Let's see whether I can get this to work. By the way, I didn't get any sleep recently, so if you're wondering why my voice is a little bit more gravelly than usual, it's because I have not been sleeping. But aside from that, I'm not maxing out the mic or doing anything stupid, am I? Everyone can hear me fine. Presumably would have complained already otherwise. That's not what I wanted. This is what I wanted. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do this properly. Let's debug break it all. Physically broken on stockpile set to true. That's true. This did not update. Did I forget to connect that up? I think I forgot to connect that up, didn't I? I did. I'm an idiot. So the whole point of adding in all that events is that when one event fires, whoever's listening listens for it. But in order to do that, you have to actually sign up for the event. Otherwise, nothing hears you. So I created the event and I forgot to sign up for it. Because I am brilliant like that. Ship component to component dirty to add listener. Component is dirty. And we're creating a new function. Public void component is dirty. Ship component. And we will go ahead and say that if it's one of our components, we care. So if component, if for each ship component C in components, if component equals C, then recalc. Right, that'll do. Another thing we need to do is if it's null, recalc. So if components.length equals 0, recalc. And return. There we go. And now that should actually work. Let's find out. Bum ba da bum 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 bum. Grind. All right. So if we open up our engineering window, there you go. We're gonna try and break that fuel one more time. There we go. That looks right. Yay! It worked. See? We broke it. But I bet you thought that was all we were going to do. We're going to want to have it so that the ship component itself changes how it looks to reflect the fact that it's broken. There are going to be a lot of ways to do this, which is why I'm going to put the function here inside of the ship component. But I think that we're going to want to, just for default, set the color of all of the verts. So that's something that will get overridden if we tell the ship to recalculate. So what we're going to want to do is just tell the ship to recalculate us. So in order to do that, we're going to want to close others, and then we're going to want to go and open up the ship. So if we take a look inside of the ship, there is visuals with some colors attached. Color verts, there it is. There we are. So the color verts function. Right now it searches and it finds colors and all sorts of stuff. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to override all of this with a broken color if the function is, or sorry, if the system is broken, if the component is broken. So to do that, we have to relate the mesh filters to the component lists that they're in, which is a little bit expensive, but it's cheaper than going through the meshes. So let's do that. Ship component equals mf.getComponent ship component. If component equals null, then mf.getComponent in parent ship component. That's called getComponent in parents. It is just in parent. Okay. If component does not equal null, we are going to want to set up a break here. So if component, so color 32 override, or bool functional equals true. If component does not equal a null, then functional equals component.functional. So down here, when we get this color, rather than do all of this work, we are going to just set the color to black if it is broken. So to do that, we're going to have two variants. If functional, then do all of this. So we're going to actually do it if not functional. If not functional, break. Darker colors. Broken. Why? I like that idea. I like the idea of just adjusting the color that we already have. So here we're going to go ahead and say if not functional, color.lerp, sorry, color.lerp, color, comma, color.black, comma 0.5f. 0.7f. There we are. And that should break it. So when we change our state, what we're going to want to do is recolor the ship. Now, the real problem here is that we end up recoloring the whole ship, and we actually don't need to. We only need to recolor one element. So to do that, we're going to want to make a version of color verts that only colors one object, a specified object. And that's not too hard. If we can get the selection right. Because we're going to end up passing that rather than doing this. So we're going to say color verts for mesh filter, and then we'll pass it the mesh filter. Can I do that, Supifcan? Can you multiply a color by can you just multiply a color? If we can, that would be cool. We'll see. So down here in color verts for mesh color, I just changed it, so that's, well, that's okay. We'll change it back in a minute. We've got this situation where for each mesh filter, here it is. So this is the part of our function that we want to keep. And I believe that it has all of the elements in it except for one, and that is the colorers. So we're going to have to pass it the colorers or store the colorers. I guess there's no reason to pass them since they are pretty much universal. Protected mix and hull colorers. There we are. That ought to do it. And then what we can do is say that this is color times equals 0.25f. Begin attack run stopped in. Hello. We are making things break. And right now I'm making it so that when they break, they die. Rah. There we go. That should still work. Shall we see what broke, if anything did? Yeah, it doesn't like me multiplying by a color. Sorry, it doesn't like me multiplying a color by a flat number. But let's take a look and see whether this works. Oh, you know what? I forgot to tell it to actually recalculate. Boy, I'm stupid today. You have to tell things to happen. You can program all the functions you want, and if you never call them, nobody cares. So what we're going to need to do is when we break, we are going to want to tell the ship to recalculate us. So we're going to want an alternate take here because we have this situation. So let's go ahead and fix this up a little bit. That's true, Evil Luigi. I will be breaking something. The question is whether it's what I want to break. There we are. That ought to do it. That way it doesn't matter what happens. We'll get our colors correctly. And the reason I have to take that out of the mix is because I'm not going to be calling color verts. I'm going to be calling public void color verts in transform T. And this is going to be very, very similar, but we are going to want to limit ourselves to a specific transform rather than this. Well, you know what we can do? And then here we can just say color verts in transform and then pass it the transform, which is the component list dot transform. There, that should do. So this gets all of the stuff in the component list for our colliders, and we need that. This needs to be against the whole ship, or else it will color wrong. This might not be against the whole ship. There we are. And that will allow us to recolor a ship component rather than having to color everything. So to do that, then when we're down here in our component dirty.invoke this, we're going to tell the ship to recalculate us. So as you can see, we don't have the ship memorized. We're going to have to grab it. So ship equals get component in parent ship. And then we're going to have to say ship dot recalculate recolor color verts in transform. Color ourselves the new color, whether broken or not. Now there are a few little pieces to that could be optimized, but I don't want to. Got it? Good. All right. 10chaos1's having a hard time with the stream. If people have a hard time with the stream, tell me so that I know. Because if only one person complains, I'm presuming it's them. But I've only got like 6 viewers at most. So, you know, that's 20% of the stream going down. 18% of the stream going down. So, you know, it's worth knowing whether that's a problem for everybody. Also, the fact that I don't keep my my viewers for very long most of the time could be because my stream is down, although it's more likely because I am not a very interesting streamer. I could stream Mass Effect. That's interesting. I could stream the new Mass Effect game. We could do it like MST3K style. I got a lot of quips. Now this is really cool, guys. The way I actually happened to do this works. That's interesting. Okay, well, either way, we're gonna go ahead and break it. To break it, and it didn't recolor properly. I don't know whether it didn't recolor properly. There are a couple of reasons that it might not have recolored properly. It's still broken, right? It worked. It just didn't recolor it properly. Debug.log coloring mesh filters in t.name. Are you done yet? Good. Alright, so let's try it one more time here. This time we're going to go ahead and watch the log that I created, specifically to tell me whether things were working. Boom! So now that we've broken everything, we can take a look down here. Physically broken, set to true, coloring mesh filters, and fuel tank clone. Well... let's go ahead and put up a debug for when we are broken. Let's not put it in there. Let's put it outside of there. If it's in there, we're going to have a problem. So here we'll say debug, debug.log, mesh filter descends from component.name plus is functional equals, and then functional. But down here, I think what we're going to want to do is not have this be a color.black. We're going to want to have it be a color that we set. Color busted equals new color 32. We're going to want 0, 0, 0, and 0, because we want that alpha. So in that case, here, can we do a color 32.lerp? Yeah, we can. Oh, I'm just a fucking idiot.
You're so smart.
I guess if I'm not optimizing it out there, there's not really any reason to optimize it here. Alright, so we don't have to worry about that, because it's going to work fine. It's just, I'm an idiot. So in the long run, we'll also have a different set of methods for showing this. When something breaks, we'll probably have a textured, maybe a texture and probably a mesh difference to show that it's been damaged in some way. It doesn't have to be terribly realistic, it just has to be obvious. Let's break it. Jabam! There we go. We have a nice broken ship part, see? And no matter what ship part we select to break, like say you, jabam! You can see right away that there's something wrong with it, see? There are other options for how to do that. I could choose other colors or something similar. If you have a black ship, this might not be the best choice. But for now, I think this is going to be fine. Changing it to a 0 alpha also reduces the brightness, because I have the brightness tied to the alpha, thanks to Pinkhair's suggestion. And therefore, we can have a lot of fun with it. Now, some of these things I don't think will break properly because they don't have any components. For example, this engine here, I don't believe that it has any mix-ins. I don't have any mix-ins for the engines built. So if I tell it to break, oh, it does have a mix-in. What mix-in does it have? Oh, it requires a resource. So we broke its requirement for propellant and energy. Okay, I can live with that. Oh, we also broke its hull colorer. Not all mix-ins make sense as a broken mix-in, but hey, whatever works. And so that's the idea. What do you think? Is that fairly obvious? So what we're going to do is load up the monkey bars one more time here, so that we have a completely fresh ship without all the broken shit. And then we're going to let our crew break it. That's not how it's supposed to look. That is an interesting bug. I think that that's related to deleting something and finding that everything has the same name. So we're trying to clear out the old ship and create the new ship, and it gets all confused. Which means I'm probably doing it in the wrong order. Well, either way, we got ourselves 4 characters here, and we're going to go into our universe, spawn into the game world. And we are going to go ahead and let these folks have a stress buildup that breaks them. But we're going to want to change the stress level cap down substantially, because right now it is very, very high. So if we select this character, there you are. When we select their social brain, here it is. Right now it's a stress relief threshold of 10. Let's go ahead and make that a stress relief threshold of 5. And that should be happening real soon here. We should break something. The object of type transform has been destroyed. That's not the bug I expected to see. Do I destroy the mix-in hull colorers when I activate them into the game world? I don't remember doing that. Oh, it's still there. Is this... This is because I loaded 2 ships. Yeah, okay. All right, here we see a couple of people have been leaving comments. So someone can get stir crazy enough they'll go out and scrape the hull paint off. That is how you fix it. You fix these things by going out and scraping the hull paint off. Eva Luigi says that paint is expensive, so it's deadly serious. And Femelsbeer says there should be a hobby called painting the ship's hull. There will definitely be a lot of different hobbies, but we haven't even gotten started on that. Pinker says a visual representation of stress would be useful. I agree completely. I just haven't gotten quite that far yet. Eva Luigi says if the crew flips out, there's still one person completely serene. So he's painting the hull for the rest of the crew. They're flipping out and breaking stuff, and he's going out and painting it black. Once again, we're going to go and set the stress down considerably lower so that our crew members flip out a lot easier. Let's go ahead and set it to 3. All right. The type transform has been destroyed. Really? Oh, the origin planet of the ship. This is all mission stuff. Who's calling the mission stuff? But it looks like we are supposed to have broken the bathroom. Let's take a look, shall we? Look at that. We broke the bathroom, everybody. I don't know who is calling for the mission system, but that's nothing at the moment. And you notice that it also recolors all of the interior meshes. Very cute. Just a little bit more, and Bob will hit his threshold again. One more day. One day more. Oh. Is it 4? Oh, it's higher because he broke already once. Right. So, once again, we have a break here. But we also broke the... Looks like we might have broken the engine. Breaking the flat mount. Okay. You can't break the flat mounts. They do not have any mix-ins. They are just slabs of concrete or metal or whatever. So that's a bust for us. What is calling this here? What is asking us whether this mission is working? I'm going to just go ahead and say return true. Because we don't care. Pink Air, I broke that symmetry on purpose. I'm actually going to have to redo all of these ship components, all of these components in the long run, including that particular element. But I was tired of having it look the way it looked because it was like one white and one black. So instead I decided that I would go ahead and break symmetry on purpose. Doop. And what we're going to do now is the same thing we did before. Come on, Bob, you're up again. There you go. Open up, grab that social brain. That's why we'll set the stress relief down to 2 so that we can break real fast and furious. Obviously, with 4 people breaking, this would be a lot more significant. With just Bob breaking, it's like whatever. Also, we could tell Bob to say something. That would be nice, I think. Oh, I just cleared it. I didn't mean to. I was hoping to clear it a little bit faster. What broke? Physically broken on the radio dish. Alright, so the radio dish broke. Oh, no wonder I can't see it. It's really, really well hidden underneath the ship where there's no lights. This ship would not survive any sort of re-entry. I wouldn't even pretend. Why did the settings save 56 million times? That's interesting. This isn't saving the settings, this is fetching the settings. That's interesting. It's not saving them. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and edit this so that people will say what they've broken. To do that, we're going to have to open up our heroes. And we're going to want to have that stress break pop up with a list of what's going on. So to do that, component broken equals components.break random component. We're obviously going to have to go there and have it return a ship component. Over back to the social brain, we're going to delete the day past 4 message because that happens too much. And then down here, we are going to tell the world what we are breaking. Oh, it's avatar.say. I broke the broken.name plus exclamation point. Sorry. Let's break some stuff, everybody. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to accelerate the universe. It's, that way I can get everyone in on this mess. So the universe right now is running at, I don't think I can override it. Well, that explains why I didn't override it last time. Let's go ahead and select ourselves a character or two and have them make some messes. What are you going to break, Bob? You didn't say anything. Why didn't you say anything? The object I want to instantiate is null. Dialogue balloon. I bet this universe doesn't have the dialogue balloons. Because this universe isn't an exact duplicate of the... Well, it does have a dialogue balloon. There it is right there. So what was it trying to... Oh, this is the wrong place. So let's go ahead and save this universe. And let's pop on over to our buddy, the other scene, which I believe is the garden scene. Oh, 10 Chaos 1 is having a rough day of it. Sorry, man. Don't worry, my upload to YouTube should probably work. So here is our universe locally. And now that we've saved it, it should have a dialogue balloon properly. All right, well, let's keep trying until we get it right. Let's go back out to the garden, actually. I didn't change anything. And let's set the universe up to have a really, really high overload, like 1 day per second. How about 2 days per second? Yeah, that'll do it. Well, 10Chaos1, if you are getting weird screen tear, then indeed your internet does have seams. Alright, let's head on out. Spawn into the game world. You can see our stress ticking up nice and fast now. Still going to take quite a while for us to max out. I think that the default stress is probably set too low. So we may want to increase that from 1 to, I don't know, 5 or 10. Yeah, let's do that. So if we look over onto our social brain, we have a nice setup where we can set how much stress per day we get. Well, we don't really need to change the amount of stress per day. We just have to change the amount of stress per hobby or per breakdown. I think that this should be 20 and 10. The thing is, those are delta serializable. So if I have changed them and saved, then all of these crew members are corrupt because they have the wrong values there. And that's not something special with how I'm doing it. Unity does the same thing. But I don't think that it is special. I think that that will be fine because I haven't saved it since I made those elements up in the first place. We will see soon. Boom. Nope. Okay, I did save them. Choices. Alright, let's select those individuals. Hey, Bob. I'm gonna have to pause you because we're going to need to see you say something. I broke the bathroom. Sorry. I may need to make it so that when we create those things, they say different stuff. That bathroom broke a lot. That's interesting. It shouldn't break that much. Broke the propellant tank. Oh, that one. I see it. See it? Are you gonna break now, Bob? Another propellant tank? It's gonna be hard to get home. All of you guys broke the rest of our ship. Actually, we're doing pretty well if we take a look here. All of our resources are still intact. The bathroom being out is actually the worst problem we've got. Because we built our system out of composite resources, we still have a fair number of tanks left. The real problem comes when we lose a major element like this. And that's going to be a major part of the stress of these situations, because that's not how it's going to happen. It's not going to be, oh, I broke something. It's going to be like an event where you're in the ship and they are breaking something. And you have an option as to how you're going to tackle the repair or the mitigation of that damage. So if they're breaking something like 1 of 4 propellant tanks, you might be like, whatever. But if they're breaking your only rocket fuel tank, you might be like, ooh, we had better scramble on that. And it would take you extra resources and extra care to make sure that that doesn't get broken permanently. And 10Chaos1 says, smash. You know, that's probably true. That would be a better thing to do. Especially if it then like does the Final Fantasy zip, 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 and then brings you into the complication map. It's a random encounter. But that's for the future. In fact, everything is for the future because that is all I'm going to do for today, I think. I haven't figured out the best way to actually get the player to spend resources because I don't have any concept of resources outside of these objects. The ships don't carry anything or anything like that. There are a lot of options I have, but I haven't figured out the best ways to do it. JD Benner, you have terrible timing because I am about to stop. We made it so that ships, all the ship stuff breaks, and well, that's how far I've gotten for today. I will be having to make some kind of method for you to unbreak stuff or to mitigate stuff in a complex situation once I figure out the kinds of resources that you can spend. There are a couple of options. One is you might sacrifice a less important component, salvage a piece from it. Another is that you might be able to add stress to another person in order to have them scramble to fix the object. It might be something where you can set someone's studies or skills back. And I think those are the big three. Might be able to... Oh, you just broke the cockpit. That's no good. There are other options. You might be able to make this so that it only works while someone is completely dedicated to keeping it online. So those are the fun options that I'm thinking of. And those are in addition to your standard options when you're in the game mode, where you'd be able to talk to people and set up shops and stuff. I set up hobbies and stuff like that. The good news is, as things wear out, the things that cannot actually be broken, like the flat mount, will get more and more attention, and they'll just break over and over. The answer to that is that the flat mount should actually be able to break. Even if it doesn't have any purpose, we don't want it to trigger over and over, because that's like an easy out, and players can just build the perfect ship by having 900 flat mounts and then one of everything else. Yeah, I'm thinking about various ways of doing this. Oh man, now we're screwed. Yeah, that's not looking too hot. Lots of stuff blacked out now. We still have our main reactor, which is nice, and our rocket fuel tank, so that's good. There are a couple of things here that need to be taken into account. The breakables need to be rehooked up, and there's a couple of other details, but I think this is probably fine in terms of what I accomplished today. Sorry, JD Benner, that you showed up so late in the stream. If you're still around, I am going to stop by on Sunday at about the same time, so I will see you then. I'll stick around chat for another 5-10 minutes, and have a good one.